Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to this edition of The Slice. My name is Kareem Cade, and I am joined with two other heavyweights today, and I am excited to share with these brothers today. Now, I got to give it to you the way I like it, brothers. And so I thought about this before we got on as we were rapping, and I said, the world gave you CP3, and I got JG3 with me. You know what I mean? Bringing the crossover and doing the whole deal. They've been saying they're looking for a black James Bond, but I got the black Kerry Bond, baby, and I'm excited about that. And all the way from Detroit by way of Hollis, Queens, the Adidas man. No, it ain't Run DMC. It's just KRC, baby. We are excited to be here with y'all today, man, and this edition of The Slice. And so, guys, I'm ready to jump right into this deal, and let's just share what we've been talking about in the past with what's happened with our respective careers. So, John, I'm going to pass it to you first, maybe quick introductions, and, man, let's just jump in.
Sure. So my name is John Green. I'm the general agent of TGC Agency, which is based in Columbia, Maryland. And we work with small to medium-sized businesses 2 to 100. And I got into it because I didn't find many people who played in that space. And I thought there was a market out there for people who needed what we write and advise people on. And people just didn't know where they were going. And I thought it was an opportunity to stay in that lane. I just keep pushing through it.
I love it. I love it. Brother Bond, talk about it.
Yes, sir. All right. I'm Kerry Bond. I'm the head of claims for the U.S. for Lloyd's of London. I'm the first guy in the role, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation today, talk about how we got here and how we're going to help others and all that kind of stuff. But the very question I wanted to start with, how do you get three bald-headed guys to have a conversation in a barbershop?
Hey, bald-headed guys rule the world, man. Hey, look, Kerry, hair is overrated. Even though we're in the barbershop, you know what I mean? We're in the barbershop right now. We all got a little something right here we can work with.
Okay,
Hey, line me up on the sides, man. It's good. Well, listen, I'll jump in. Kareem came from Detroit, Michigan, benefits business, Great Lakes Benefit Group. Work with a lot of union organizations. We're in 8 states now. Been in the business now since 1995. And just excited to be here sharing. I think to you all's point, I find that there are more African Americans in the property and casualty side of business, very few in the employee benefit side. And so I've just been looking to share that story as well as to the lucrative opportunity. I think, Kerry, you said it best, that it's just dripping with money. It's dripping with revenue in all these facets of the businesses. So I think that just leads us to the question. I mean, we started off talking about how do you take a punch, right? How do you take a punch in this industry? And I think I've always been told by folks that box that it's not so much about taking a punch, but it's about rolling with a punch, right? Such that you can set up for your next counteract. And so having said that, maybe Kerry, share with us, man, I'm intrigued. A brother from Lloyd's, head of claims. I just ain't never heard of that before, man. Talk to us.
Well, here's the deal. I got into business back in 1988. And at that time, I started my career with Safeco, a very conservative company. And if you saw 2 black people standing in the hall talking, people would start whispering, what's up with them? Because it seemed that at that time the industry was so conservative and so anti-people of color that it was hard to network and talk about things out in the open that, in my view, still needs to be talked about, with stuff like, hey, brother, how do you do this? Hey, brother, how do I advance my career? Hey, brother, give it to me straight. Help me do the things I need to do to reach not only your level, but beyond. So I think that the topic of this conversation came about because in another conversation we had said, to your point, the boxing analogy, Mike Tyson said everybody's got a plan until you hit him in the face. So once you take that punch and you kind of roll, but it hurt a little bit, the question becomes is how can you straighten back up and get back in the fight? And I think it's by having conversations with brothers like us, brothers that preceded us, and brothers that are coming along behind us that have far exceeded our career aspirations. So Lloyd's of London, the oldest, largest market in the insurance industry. And to a point that we were talking about, we got on the phone, is they've admitted to their role in slavery. And I feel very privileged to be able to have a conversation with the chairman of Lloyd's and talk about that very thing. And the thing that we discussed is as I go across the United States and in Europe, we talk about race. We talk about DE&I. We talk about stuff very openly, very consistently, and constantly because we know, at least in the insurance industry, we have not had the path opened and cleared for us the way others have.
Come on, man.
My favorite cliche is any place. It doesn't matter what endeavor it is. If there's a lot of money to be made, nobody's going to tell us. This is an opportunity for us to tell each other the things that have helped us to get not only to where we are, but where we hope to be, and how we can help each other.
I love it. I love it. John, what's your thought on that?
So the question is how to avoid a punch. I think you kind of have to also manage your expectation. I think moving from a health or life insurance space is totally different when you're seeking appointments in the P&C space. And most people I knew at the time were, I call it the personal line space. I knew a lot of community agents that sold home and auto renters, but I knew very few people who looked like me who played in this above the small market into the medium market and had direct appointments with carriers. So no one could tell me how to navigate that process. So that was my punch, being told, no, you can't get an appointment, not knowing how to address people's questions. And so after several of those attempts, you start learning what people are looking for, what to say. I didn't have anybody to tell me that. I had to figure that out. So the punch to me was being told no. Then it was, okay, how do I respond to and make you feel comfortable with giving the appointment? And then how do I make that person look like a hero for giving me the appointment? Right. So it's not so much you just get the appointment. What do you do with the opportunity? And then once you show up with one, then you start getting phone calls from others, the ones who told you no, but they see you on the board now. So they want to get some of them buckets too. So I think it's understanding no doesn't always mean no forever. You just got to figure out how to recover from that no and keep pushing.
Man, you got me excited. Now, that's my language. No does not mean forever, man. I tell you, I've been working on cases forever, right? You look at them and you say, am I sitting back waiting on them? No, but I know that no that means that does not mean forever, right? I'm looking at those opportunities. So I think the punch frame for me is just, again, being in a space where there was nobody who looked like me. I mean, I walked into the room, I'm fighting against the Aons, the Gallaghers, the Willis, because we were going after larger accounts. And so when we would show up, my team would show up and they'd be like, man, who are the guest basketball players coming in today? My whole team is all brothers. So they're looking like, well, wait a minute, where, is more than one of y'all coming in here? And so we had to really kind of figure out, how do we do that? Even coming to the space of saying there was times where all three of us couldn't go. It just, because it was too much for them in the room. And we had to understand that was a challenge for folks who had not seen anything that looked like us prior. Then we were doing a lot of union business. And so we were earning trust over a long period of time. And so as we looked at that time frame, it was always trying to figure out how do we work ourselves to the room. And I think you said it best, John, looking at the opportunity. When the opportunity presented itself, we had to be able to shine. And as I always say, we didn't get the opportunity to fumble the ball. I look at some of my counterparts, man, they fumble the ball and they would come in unprepared. And you look at a finalist session and I'm like, how the hell did these clowns come back in the room and they're still here? And I'm thinking we're in here looking to be superior in order to be equal with their ball game. And so that was something that was strong for me, but it was just about straightening up again. In the beginning, it was frustrating as hell, knowing that we were better, knowing that when we showed up, we were more prepared, knowing that we had done the extra mile, extra homework. But again, looking at our audience, we had to figure out how to adapt in order to be able to survive and play in this long. And so being in this business now over these years, specifically in the space of employee benefits, I knew what you said, Carrie, was key. I knew an employee benefits, and I think, John, you were talking about that kitchen table business. And employee benefits, what it represented to me was that I could go get one check from one person. I didn't have to go see 1,000 people. I could get one check. And what I understood is that employer was not going to miss that insurance payment. They might miss a whole lot of other stuff, but they weren't going to miss that insurance payment in a given month. And so it became critical for me to figure out how many of those business units I could establish in that space, because each one of them represented a unit to me. If it was 1,000 groups here, 1,000-man group here, 500-man group here, each one of them. Yeah.
Let me ask you, brother, something.
Please, brother, talk.
We had the conversation here. Is that, and it's our panel discussion, so we're just going to jump in and just talk.
Talk about it.
So the big deal is this. It seems that we all had to kill a lot of cliches. We all had to become a lot of stereotypes. And the big deal is, and the thing I like to tell young brothers and sisters now, I'm trying to be that person that I wish I had when I was your age. That
Come on.
makes sense. What y'all think about that, man?
What?
I'm
Go
just
for
asking.
it, John. Go for it, John. Hey, I'm bubbling on that one, bro.
I'm asking.
Well, even now, when you go to like a regional or national sales meeting for a carrier, you can be one of two and either think that you work in claims, no disrespect, Carrie, or who you here with, right?
Who you here with?
And so when you say I'm neither, they look at you and say, "What do you mean?" I said, "No, I'm the principal of my agency." And then their eyes get big, like, "Well, how long have you had an appointment? Why?" "Well, it took me 10 years." I said, "Well, I've been in business 6. I've been in business 5, depending on when it was." So now they're trying to figure out, oh, well, where are you based? So now they got all these second and third level questions. But before it was a size up question, like, oh, who do you work for? No.
And how big are you? What's your ability to do anything? That's what they're really looking at. What's your bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, Carrie, looking at that deal, I never had, I shouldn't say that, I had one brother that was in the voluntary benefits space that I worked with early on, and he was a great mentor. But outside that, in my space, all the mentors I had one Italian, one Jewish, and one white. Sounds like a bad joke, right? But I mean, that's who they were. And these are good brothers to me today that took me under that wing. But what they saw in me is that I wasn't going to quit. They saw that there was something different. So to your point, Carrie, I just have always said now, I want to be in a space where I can open the doors for other folks. But now you got to be ready. Because look, my reputation of getting past all those cliches you talked about, I can't fumble the ball. I can't bring you in and you jack this deal up for everybody else. Because I got the door cracked. It ain't open. It's cracked. And we slide them in.
Here's the deal for me. You know when I hear brothers talk about, yeah, he just crab trying to keep it in the barrel. Man, go talk to that brother.
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
start that crap. Just go talk to him. And maybe there's something going on that he's working on. He just don't want you to know.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't know. So these cliches sometimes kill us, man. And we like to get together in these little groups and whisper and talk. And man, talk to the brothers, talk to the sisters, and figure out what's going on, because you may be able to help with just one sentence out of that conversation. But if you never had a conversation, how you gonna help somebody?
I don't necessarily know if it's so much about the conversation as much as it's individuals' limited belief. And so they see other people and don't believe that they can do it. Right. So even when you talk to people to tell them about the insurance space, most people default to back to the kitchen table conversation because that's their comfort zone. And when you tell them the water is warm on the deeper end, their limited belief says, I can't swim in that end of the pool, so I'm going to stay here. And no matter how hard you try to push them or pull them, they still want to fight you to go back to the shallow end of the pool. And so sometimes I think you can show them, but they got to believe too, because they're going to think you're just an anomaly. Oh, I can't do what you do. And so it doesn't really matter all the words of wisdom you give them until they believe that they can actually do it on their own.
Damn, that's a great point, man. And I think that when we look at, again, because you made a great statement, walking into the room to the conferences and being the only one. I used to always laugh at that. I'd go out with these guys, hang out with my counterpart, with the white boys, and have a great time, right? The night before, the next day in the meeting, 10 of them missing from the meeting. If I wasn't there, somebody says, well, man, we didn't see you at the meeting this morning. I'm like, how the hell you didn't see me? I was the same 10 guys. You know what I mean? I'm the only guy you didn't see that didn't make the meeting this morning, man. We were all
But that's so true. There's a benefit and a curse to being the only one.
Right. Everybody know your name, and everybody knows your name. I mean,
let me ask your thoughts on this. And this is certainly a cliche. You can't bring everybody with you. Now that's a cliche for sure, but it's also true.
It's also true.
Because the thing that I tell people right now, you can take all my money, but if you waste my time, we ain't friends no more.
Say it one more time, Carrie. Say it one more time, man. I don't think they heard it.
You can take all my money, but if you waste my time, we ain't friends no more.
I agree. I agree.
I say that in this context, that if you come with me talking about a bunch of bullshit, that's a short conversation.
Yeah.
But if you about your business and you want to make some stuff happen, let's sit down. Let's have a serious conversation. We can laugh.
I mean, man, that's huge.
Have a serious conversation. So
I think that's huge. And I'm of the same way as well when they start talking about time. And my thing when I had a bunch of sales reps, I would always tell them, look, I know how to waste time. I don't need any help. You know what I mean? I got that down. I got that down side. Man, I got that. Wasted time. I figured out how to do that on my own. So I don't need your help in wasting my time. That just don't make no sense. I determine who I waste my time with. You know what I mean? It's not going to be you.
You got to practice to do that, man.
No, man, that's easy. You know what I mean? That's easy. I got enough distractions in between my phone and them feeding me all the information that I didn't think I was interested in, and they just fed it to me. You know, so yeah, I need help. So I mean, John, what's your thought on that in terms of mentorship and looking at working with younger folks that might come behind us? I mean, how do you determine where you spend that time?
I think you spend the time with people who are thirsty for the information. Everyone doesn't always want. I mean, you can't project that everyone wants the same thing. It's just like being in a chamber. You know, all businesses don't want to scale, so you can't treat them like they do. So you have to listen out for those people who are asking those right questions of how do I get from here to here. Some people are just comfortable where they are, and you can't force them to get off of that spot. And you'll frustrate yourself trying to motivate and inspire somebody who doesn't want more than what they already have. So they're going to tell you, or they're going to show themselves in terms of those who want to get to the next level, or who want to get into a different room, or who want to get. So those are the ones you focus on. You can't save them all, as they say. So therefore, don't frustrate yourself in trying to. But I think you can leave the door open and just let people come to you, because you just can't take that to everybody.
Man, I like that. I like that a lot. I think one of the things I know in working with Ngozi, and shout out to Ngozi, y'all. She put this thing together. So shout out to her, Ngozi.
Yes, sir.
But I think the thing, I mean, I was down at Fisk with her a couple of weeks ago and talking with some students. And I mean, you just look at that difference. And so I dated myself. I started my conversation and I'm talking about it. Hey, I graduated from Clark during the year at Freaknik, and here's the deal. And I was part of the Chronic era with Dr. Dre, and they're looking at me with straight faces like, the Chronic era, Freaknik. Who is this old dude coming up in here? And I'm like, I thought I was connecting with my audience, and clearly I was not. Clearly, I was way off base of connecting with my audience, man.
Your mama, they know what I'm talking about.
Go grab your mama. She knows exactly what's going on. So when we think about this, guys, I mean, how do we make this divide, right? We know that there's this divide between us. As I looked at the write-up on us, we were the OGs. I said, damn, I'm finally an OG. I didn't know I was an OG now. Now I'm an OG already. I got a little gray in my beard, and I turned into an OG. My daughter said, you're a dinosaur, Daddy. You don't know nothing about technology. You're a dinosaur. Okay. But I mean, so how do we think? I mean, with the technology, with the AI, with all the things that are in front of us, I think, again, our thought is, how do we connect back with that generation? And I think the thought in the write-up was that we're not preaching to them. We're just trying to share with them what happened for us and how we can help them go to the next level. But how do we make that connection with them?
Well, here's the deal. It's called reverse mentoring. That's what it's called. It's where folks of our generation will reach out to folks of the following generations and just have a conversation and be perfectly transparent. A lot of stuff I have no clue about, but you do this stuff just like you breathe. So the reverse mentoring part is they're all over tech and AI and all that stuff, but we have the experience to kind of get how it applies without knowing how it works. You know, it's sort of like starting your car. You don't know how the engine works, but you know it runs.
Right.
So it's reverse mentoring that makes the conversation effective between us as boomers and millennials, or whatever the generation may be. Is we have to have the respect of what we don't know and respect the people that do know and get that merger. It's kind of how that works in my view.
Like it. I like. What's your thought, John?
I think technology is great as a tool, but it will never replace the human-to-human contact. And so I think a lot of people try to avoid having conversations by setting up autoresponders and chat bots. And that's good for some things, but it doesn't always solve problems. And the person that can actually engage and solve problems is always going to be the person who's sustainable versus the person who tries to avoid having the hard conversations and doesn't want to deal with people. So I think those tools are great, but they can't replace this human contact. And so insurance, for all intents and purposes, is still a service business. You can buck it however you want, but it's a service business. And if you're not into the service model, it's going to be hard for you to survive because the product is homogeneous. So it's everything else you do that makes you the person they want to go to. So it's
Well,
not the. Go ahead.
no, I'm just thinking about in that space and that technology as you're talking about that. I'm just thinking these young brothers and sisters are sharp, man. Like they know how to do it. They're looking more into entrepreneurship side. And I'm like, we've got to connect the dots with them because they're looking past because nobody's giving them the opportunity to talk about insurance. Nobody who grows up and say, I want to be the insurance guy. I mean, nobody looks at that.
No.
However, when we think about it, insurance touches every area of our lives. I probably pay more in insurance premiums monthly than I pay in anything else when I look across medical, car. I mean, you just name it, phone, whatever it is. There's an insurance premium going out every month. And I can tell you what, I don't want to be without it.
Think about it. That insurance is the safest bet in the world. The government says you got to have it. If you got life insurance, you're betting that you're going to die. We on the insurance side are betting that you're going to live. When you get out of bed every day, you're thinking about how you're going to live and how you're not going to have an accident, how you're not going to burn your house down.
Right.
And the government says you got to have it all. Can't beat that.
Can't beat that, man. Hey, and I don't care what the economy is doing. You know, I was telling folks that during COVID, everyone was saying, well, we had a rough time in business. I said, well, you know what? Being in the health insurance space, nobody missed a damn health insurance premium. None during COVID, bro. I didn't have anybody miss a premium payment during COVID.
In the world, man. In the world.
I'm like, we made more money during COVID than what we had been making the year before because everybody's calling like, we need to have our insurance, make sure everything is together. Of course you do it. No question.
Therein lies the rub. We know that because we're in the industry.
Right.
Young folks that are other industries, they may have the mindset that I had before I got in insurance. Insurance is a guy that shows up every week with the little black book, take your
debit
dollar.
man.
Debit man.
Debit man.
But we've been exposed to insurance as a multi-trillion-dollar global business.
Yes.
It's wide open.
Yes.
Come on in, the water's fine.
Oh man, I love it.
I think people get stuck on trying to sell an intangible product without focusing on the utility of what it provides. If you focus on the utility and not so much about what it's called, then I think people will grasp it. But because it's intangible, people don't always make the connection, right? So if you talk about all the things that it's in, what it touches, then it's broader because insurance on the face is not sexy or hip.
Right.
But the utility of it is pervasive. So if you focus on the utility and less about what you want to call it, then I think you get more people engaged. But when people hear insurance, it sounds mundane, and then they kind of turn their ears off to it because it doesn't sound hip. So I focus on the utility of it and less about, the proper noun because that's not going to.
I love it. Hey, and I love you say it's not sexy. It's profitable though. I can tell you that. It ain't sexy. It's profitable. So I'll take profitability over sexy any day because profitability will make you look sexy. Profitability will make you look sexy. So as we round out, I mean, we need to talk about how does this directly affect Black men? I mean, as we're thinking about Black men, let's kind of finish up with our final thoughts on that, Kerry. What's your thoughts?
The thought is find a godfather, if you will. Don't matter if he's 24 years old, but if he's been down through there, he has the experience to tell you some things that will help you. Sit at his knee and learn. Lose that pride, lose that passion, and understand you got to learn. Because here's the deal. You do the work, the money will come. Don't get it twisted. You got to do the work.
Got to do the work. Got to do the work. John, what's your thoughts?
My thought is it's a grand opportunity for somebody who wants to embrace this next generation of people who are socially responsible, who want to be entrepreneurs. And with the number of people going into business, it's a great role for Black male or female, but I think more Black men should look at it as a business choice. Call it a career choice if you want, but I say it's a business choice because it's a business that's needed. It doesn't matter what community you're in, you're going to encounter people who need what you can offer.
And I would say with that as well is that I think at the time we're talking about not a lot of upfront costs, right? So the barrier to entry is very low. And I think that that's an important piece when we start talking about businesses. They have figured out this AI and technology so they can build a business in an electronic format. Still will not ever replace what we talked about, which is the relationship side of things. But I think they bring something additional that they add to what you and I have, the three of us have done already from the relationship side of things, from a marketing standpoint, But I think the opportunity has never been greater now that folks understand that this country is continuing to brown. It's continuing to look like more people like us. And if you're going to sell to folks that look like us, somewhere down the line, somebody's going to say, I want to see somebody who looks like me providing this particular product or service to me. And I think that the time has never been better for African Americans, people of color, men, as we're talking about this particular episode, to jump in and get on in this thing, man, because to your point, the water is warm and it's a lucrative opportunity, and it doesn't take forever to build. It takes some hard work. I mean, to get it's like that locomotive to get it started. It takes some time to get it started. But once it's started and it rolls and that residual income begins to flow, brother, it's game on. There's nothing to talk about.
Well, you know what, fellas? I think this has been great, but I think our time is about up. So if I could, I'm going to go ahead and close this out if that's all right.
All right.
So for everybody that's on the line, thank you for joining us for today's episode of The Slice. Be sure to tune in 2 weeks from now, same place, but new time. In order to conclude our West Coast family in the conversation in June, we'll be moving the live episodes to 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget to join Joliffe Pi, the only online platform for Black insurance professionals. Thank you, Kareem. Thank you, John. Until next time, have a great day.
Boom!